What is going on, guys? Jason Burke here, Styles Clash for Life, coming at you on YouTube, and today I've got number 2 of my all-time top 20 favorite horror movies. For the last 20 days, I've been counting down from 20 to 1 my favorite 20 horror films of all time, ranking and reviewing my 20 favorites. And if you guys have not seen number 20 through number 3, they're on my channel now. I rank and review each film and talk about them a little bit. So go back and check those out. But now I've got 2 more to go. I'm at number 2 now, my second favorite personal horror film of all time. And I said before that when I represent these horror franchises on my list, I want to include at least one of all the famous franchises that I love so much. And sometimes, even though number 1 is the most iconic and the most well-known and the most respected, I sometimes like a sequel a little bit better than the original. So, with due respect to the original, I've got that in this case here. So, my number 2 favorite horror film of all time is 1987's Nightmare on Elm Street 3: Dream Warriors. Now, again, I understand that number 1 is iconic and is original and should be regarded as one of the best films of all time, and it is. I totally respect it. It's totally one of the best films ever, personal favorite of mine, but I just seem to like Dream Warriors a little bit better. It just has that classic campiness. 1987, it's ahead of its time for what it's doing. As much as I love and respect the first, I love and respect this one just a little bit more. Basically, it brings back Wes Craven, who wrote the screenplay and I believe directs here as well. It brings back Nancy, who's played by Heather Langenkamp. It brings back the awesome elements of the original and adds a little more campiness and a little more comedy in the right spots. And it just has this, it combines the serious feel of Freddy Krueger from the first one and adds a little bit extra mystique and magic and 80s campiness to it in the perfect way. It is Heather Langenkamp, who plays Nancy in the movie, has now become traumatized in the first movie, but has moved on now to coach kids and teach kids and help kids that have gone through the crisis of not being able to sleep and that have any sort of special needs and kids that are just traumatized. And these Dream Warriors are the last of the Elm Street kids. So Freddy Krueger is still going strong, and Nancy is now teaching and coaching kids that were in her spot, which is great. Essentially, all the kids wind up having powers in their dreams. Again, a little far-fetched, a little not as serious as the first one, but it's done tastefully, it's done well. Every background character, every ancillary character in this movie has a cool power, has an image, stands out with dialogue. Every kill scene means something in this movie. Sometimes in these slasher films, the background characters are just these bland, naked teenagers who are drinking and partying, and no one cares what happens to them. In this movie, you feel something for every character, whether you hate them or love them. Every gore scene makes sense and means something. Every character has a story. Every character has their own image and power. There's the one girl who's beautiful and bad in her dreams, where she has the mohawk and she has the knives, and she's overcome her addiction to drugs, which you see Robert Englund as Freddy Krueger coming out with the famous syringe fingers, which nobody can forget, which is awesome. You have the scene where the guy is being held up by his tendons. It's sort of doing the marionette kill as he walks out the window, kills himself off of several stories up from Freddy with the face in the clouds. So you have that scene. And again, there are spoilers, obviously, so if you have not seen this, go check it out. But you have the marionette kill. You have the Welcome to Primetime bitch with the girl who's trying to stay up and sees Freddy on a talk show and gets her head pulled into the giant Freddy TV. Again, the lines are just classic. The comedy is not overdone. It's campy and cheesy, but it's done in a way that still respects the audience and still respects Freddy as a character. It is a good, like I just talked about with Jason Part 6. It has the comedy in the right spots, and it's cheesy in a lovable way, but it's not overly cheesy and overly done where you feel like it's like a Bride of Chucky or Leprechaun Goes to the Hood or a Jason X, where it's just sort of overdone and insults your intelligence. It's done in a cool kind of a way and respects all the characters. And in the end of this film, sadly enough, you think that, well, I guess Nancy does die because Heather comes back as herself later in New Nightmare, but Freddy actually kills Heather as Heather embraces somebody else. Freddy takes her out and makes you believe that, well, the character is dead, so they kill off the iconic Nancy character. And Robert Englund in this with the dialogue and with the demonic makeup and everything, he's just wonderful. Robert Englund is the quintessential character actor for a slasher. Of course, he directed 976 Evil, and he did other stuff like 2001 Maniacs, and he did those characters well too. But there's no polarizing, iconic figure that can talk and has personality quite like Freddy Krueger, because ones like Jason and Michael don't talk, so they're kind of one-dimensional, where Freddy has the lines and the verbiage, and this is kind of the last point before he gets to become a caricature of himself. In Part 4 and Part 5 and Part 6, he's a little too cheesy, and there's a little too much CGI, and it's a little too over the top. This is like the fine line between good Freddy and bad Freddy. And so, again, the Dollhouse lights pop on, we go to credits. And so what do you guys think? Should I have put number 1 here in my number 2 spot? Should the original have been on this list? Or are you guys cool with Dream Warriors? Where do you put this in your favorites of the Freddy franchise? What do you guys think of Nightmare on Elm Street as a franchise? What do you think of this pick? And what are your lists? Tell me down below. I'm coming at you guys next with my number 1 all-time favorite horror movie. And so I will see you guys in a second. But until then, lock your doors, dim the lights, stay scared, and enjoy the movies. Happy Halloween.